Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon to you, Professor Rajul Bhargav. Thank you so much for talking to us, for taking your time out. It's a pleasure to have you here. My name is Pankhuri. We are going to just ask you a few questions. This is a very informal session, ma'am, actually. You are quite a legend here, and it has been a pleasure meeting you. Ma'am, you're a poet, you're an editor, you've been a teacher, you've had an illustrious career. I want to begin with all the research work that you've done. Tell us a little bit about your papers. You've written many of them, so.
Good afternoon, Pankhuri. My research work began with writing papers in language, and then gradually I came to understand that from language you've got to go into literature in order to find the heart and the soul. And so I graduated, so to say, into literature. I was initiated into women's writing, which has been my forte for a long while now. I write about women's writing, women in writing, women on writing, and women and writing. So the whole idea of how the women writes, why she writes, what she writes is my point of interrogation, and I try to critically analyze it with the social context of what it means to be a woman.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you. But you make me ever so hungry again. So tell us about some of your favorite authors that you chose to work with.
My authors are both from India and from abroad. In India, I began writing with my papers on Shashi Deshpande because two of her works, That Long Silence and The Dark Holds No Terror, the very titles drove me into thinking of how the dark, the whole socio-cultural, politico-economic context in India is like a dark passage, and the woman has got to tunnel herself out of it to seek the light beyond. And I found Shashi Deshpande doing a tremendous job of of trying to validate the whole process of a woman's living as such. So my beginnings were with Deshpande because I related to her personally. My personal experiences, the life I had lived so long, seemed to be just a reiteration of what she was writing. I found myself in her works. Then gradually I also started reading writers from America, writers like Alice Munro, for example. Alice Munro writing her autobiography. Alice Munro in the short stories. One particular story is Office, where, like Virginia Woolf, she wants to find a space for herself. And what does it mean to have a room of your own? Like Virginia Woolf and Aurora Leigh. I found Munro looking for that. Margaret Atwood was another one. Then I got attracted to the women of color because theirs was a kind of a double consciousness. They were fighting against being black and being women,
Right.
Within their own community, of how very suppressed they were, how very oppressed they were, despite the fact that throughout the long history of slavery, they have been the ones who have got the heart and the home running. So in them I found a lot of substance. that sustained me as a woman. Maya Angelou, all her 7 autobiographical works, from I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings down. Maya Angelou, Alice Walker. These were other writers, in My Mother's Garden, for example, that beautiful essay where she recounts of how, you see, motherhood is such a learning experience, a teaching experience, how you become what you are through the emulation of your women in the family. So these are some of the writers but I have also worked with certain postmodern writers, and I find the way they narrate, the bits and pieces, the collages that, tell you about the fractured lives that the women live. So that again is a point of interrogation that I am now, going into.
Amazing. Thank you. That was so enriching, so inspiring for us to read more and more and also understand these authors through your analysis. Thank you, ma'am. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your own writings? I mean, I think you also are a poet, right? Is it?
I am a poet of sorts, let me say that, because I write about my personal experiences. I started by writing poems for my daughter, trying to transfer to her all that I had learned from my mother. So it's a kind of a heritage, that I pass on to my daughter. And I think all my poems revolve around those themes. I also have poems on strained relationships because all around me I found shattered marriages, and it made me thinking into what had gone wrong. After all, we were people who were once married, and वो कहते हैं ना कि 7 जन्मों के फेरे होते हैं, पर तब भी क्यों होती हैं ये shattered? So quite a few of my poems are about the shattering and the battering as well, which sort of pains me, and it is the pain that comes out in poetry, to tell you frankly.
Absolutely. And ma'am, you have supervised so many people in their thesis writing, in their academic careers. In fact, let me just share with you, dear friends, that we are now coming back from an event in a university where 2 of ma'am's eminent students have been involved in an event, and Dr. Mukesh Yadav is a teacher there. We are driving and we'll talk to them later, but I just wanted to sort of pan the camera and share that with you. And now coming back to ma'am, such an honor to be here. And dear friends, you know what, I was saving this for the end, but today is a special day because it is also ma'am's birthday.
Thank you, Pankhuri.
So yeah, you're more than welcome, and thank you to you, my dear ma'am, for everything, for all the love that you have showered on us since morning. It has really been so inspiring. So do you want to share something about your teaching experience, your research supervision?
Pankhuri, I feel, and I have shared this at many platforms, I think Mukesh also knows it, the best teacher is a salesman. I have wares to sell, and across the table are my buyers. If I cannot satisfy them, if I cannot, as I said in the morning also, see that twitch in the lips and the shine in the eyes, I know that I have been a failure. And the worst thing for a teacher is to know that the class has not responded to you. So I make it a point to make my students respond in any way that they like, because it is from their responses that I myself grow as a teacher. That I think has been what they call my funda of teaching.
Wonderful. And if you had to, supervise a few more research students, and you had to suggest some more topics, what would they be?
I think now, as Shalini was also mentioning, English is now across the board. We cannot say that only literature and writers per se. You can choose a topic from psychology, you can look at topics from economics texts, and you can make a kind of a literary interpretation of because what is literature? Literature is life. It's an imitation of life and all walks of life. So now I would ask my students to look at other walks of life rather than just what the literary writers or poets have given them. After all, the whole world is an arch, and we've got to march beyond in order to get, and marching ahead would mean taking everyone together. So why not in literature take
Right.
all subjects, music, psychology, sociology. My own work was on the sociology of literature. So there you are. Let us take everyone along. Let us be interdisciplinary, if that is the word that is meant for taking everyone along.
Wow, that's amazing. Can you help us understand a little bit more? Like, what do you mean by the sociology of literature?
The sociology of literature, as the word suggests, is all about how people make a live, the whole concept of being and becoming in society. So the community at large comes in, the personal endeavors come in, the endeavors for betterment of your life come in. So I would say sociology of literature is about man's being and becoming.
Wonderful. Wow. Ma'am, you're also editing a literary journal. Do you want to share your experiences, your inspiration? I mean, you seem to be having so much energy about so many things. Wow.
Pankuri, when I retired from active service, I did not want to become a passive retired person, and I took up into something that I had been dreaming so long, and that was to sort of give people slices of life, as I've been telling you, and these I thought best would be through a journal. So I launched a journal in 2011, and I named it Voices, which means voices of interrogation, which are critical and interdisciplinary, and I taken all voices from Ganesh Devi's contestations with for indigenous people to Mushirul Hassan to Romila Thapar, who have all been a part of my journey of the round table. I've got Temsula Ao coming in, Rashmi Narzare from Guwahati coming in. I have people like Sangeeta Bahadur talking about, or Devdutt Patnaik talking about Indian mythology. So I have not restricted myself, but opened up for further research, writers and areas and instances that would, make people think.
Wow, great. So thank you so much for talking to us, ma'am, and wishing you the very best with this literary journal as well as all the other amazing work that you're doing, and wishing you a very happy birthday again.
Thank you, Pankuri.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you.